Hello everyone, and once again, thank you very much for your coming. Thank you very much for your interest in our native breeds. This time is the part of our cycle devoted to the Russian native breeds non-recognized yet by the FCI. So, in front of you at the screen, you have a beautiful picture of our Russian colored bichon. But as usually, before to start reading and analyzing the standard and give the comments to its provisions, I will tell you about the approach I'm going to use explaining the most difficult points of the standard, as usually. And you can understand that this approach is very universal. Because anytime doesn't matter. If the breed is small or big, it works. And it is valid, and it is a very good tool either for the judges or for the breeders. And I will demonstrate it at the final of my speech regarding this approach. So, this approach includes two models, biomechanical model of the dogs and harmonic model of the dogs. The first one is devoted to the soundness, as well as the second one to the harmony of the dog conformation. These models are resulted by long years researches done by me during 24 years, from 1963 to 1987, and based on the specifics of the Soviet breeding strategy. According to that strategy, the only breeding commission of each breed club was in charge of breeding plan a year. And since 1963, during almost 30 years, I have been chairman of that commission, first in the Doberman Club and later on in the Schnauzer Club. In some periods, that plan included per year about 300 to 400 brood bitches. So you can see how huge was the statistics. That's why hypotheses appeared during the breeding process were checked for the trustfulness. Biomechanical model of the dogs is the integrity of the postulates. And harmonic model of the dogs is the integrity of harmonious proportions. Later on, I have defended the doctoral dissertation in biology, named Dog Conformation Improvement through Biomechanical Model of the Dogs. So the previous hypothesis became afterwards status of the scientifically proven facts. Therefore, you can fully trust them and use in your practice. Both biomechanical model and harmonic model are of practical value. And judges can find here universal reference points which help them to increase the objectivity of their assessment. And the breeders can find there the selective algorithm for acceleration of the breeding progress. So this is the preface. Now I'm going to tell you first about the biomechanical model of the dogs. You saw before the picture, which is usually you can find in the ring. And now this is the picture which explains what is inside, what is hidden inside of this profuse coat. And the next picture will have all lines and angles I need for the explanation of the biomechanical model. So in front of you, there is a picture with a lot of lines of different colors. About the postulate number one. This postulate concerns the proportions of the top line anatomical divisions, and is, as you can see, this is determined by the ratio 2 1, 1, where 2 units fall on the thoracic part of the spine or actual back. 1 unit falls on the lumbar part of the spinal column or loin, and last 1 unit falls on the sacrum or rump, which is the upper part of the croup. This is a postulate number 1. Later on, I will give you the comments of each postulate. Even I don't need to do that because, as you know, the postulate is the statement which doesn't need to be proven. But anyway, on the essential level, I will give you for the better understanding why do I use it, each of the postulate. The next postulate name is the 90 degrees angle by the axis of the pendulum. I call pendulum this angle created by these 2 blue lines quite conditionally. This is not textual pendulum, but I will use this term because of the convenience. The first blue line goes through the median line of the shoulder blade, as you can see, and the second one connects hip and iliac tuber, and this is the point of intersection, and this angle is 90 degrees, right angle. The postulate number 3 is postulate of 2 horizontal lines. So you can see 2 horizontal lines highlighted in red. The first one connects sternum point and end of buttock, end of sciatic bone. And the very beginning starts from point of sternum, which is in front of humeral scapula. Now, please keep in your mind, be careful. I measure from point of sternum. The second one connects elbow joint and knee joint or stifle. One more detail important for your memory is that I connect joint, elbow and knee, and I do not connect elbow ulna, which is located higher than the elbow joint. And this principle name is principle of 2 horizontal lines. The next one will be principle of 2 vertical lines. Yes, thank you very much. At this picture you can see that the elbow is located exactly under the top of withers, and the knee joint is located under the tail set. Yeah, both lines are vertical. This one, thank you very much. This illustration belongs to the previous postulate, and later on I will give you the explanation and the meaning of this illustration. Next postulate is concerning the length of the body and the distance between front and the rear limbs. The length of the body and the distance between front and the rear limbs, the distances are equal. And as I told you just before, I am measuring the length of the body in the very beginning from the point of sternum, and the end is the very end of buttock. And this line connects front and the rear legs when dog is put in the correct zootechnical position. What does it mean? That the elbows move deeply under the body, and the hind leg, at least one of them, is placed behind to the vertical rear pastern. So in this case, these distances are equal. I will give you now the comments to the postulates I told you about. Postulate number 1, named 211, regarding top line anatomical divisions. What does it mean? That the actual back or thoracic part of the spine should be long. Do not pay any attention exactly to these numbers. I will give the full explanation later on in the framework of the harmonic model of the dogs. But now please direct your attention to this sense. Biggest part of the spine and two smallest equal in between parts of the spinal column. So the biggest, the longest part of the spine, or actual back, means that the length of the chest is also long. During my researches, it was proven that selection direct to the long chest or long back leads to the deep chest. So we have two dimensions, length and depth, on maximum in the physiological limits. Or we don't order too wide, too broad the rib cage, because otherwise its shape will be spoil the correct positions of the shoulder blade and the upper arm, which will violate the translational movement of the forelegs. So these two dimensions determine the roomy rib cage, roomy chest. And this is very important because this roomy chest provides the best possibility for the best development of the lung, heart, and general blood vessels. This is one aspect of the importance of the long, relatively long back. On the other hand, if we consider the loin, we have to remember that the loin function when dog is on the move is to transmit the motive thrust from the rear to the front. And that's why this part of the spine is the spring. Spring in the process of the oscillation have different amplitude depending on the length of the loin. If the loin is short, the oscillation amplitude is not a big, and this oscillation will be transmitted to the last part of the back, where back is not supported by the breastbone. That is a part of the false ribs. And in this part, back is a mobile support. That's why this part of back is vulnerable. But in case of the small deviation, small oscillations, and not a big amplitude, this part of the back will be involved in the same process, and its own amplitude will be also not a big. But when the loin is long, the oscillation amplitude is big, And the same oscillations will be for the last part of the back. And that's why this part of the back will oscillate much more than in the case of the short loin. And this process will lead to the destruction of this part when with the age and loading, this part will become sagging, and this long loin, as you can understand now, is the cause of the soft back, because long loin provides the preconditions for that. Do not forget that in this part, the back is very vulnerable. Okay, so from both points of view, you can understand how important is the long back, and that's why short loin, if we do not change the length of the sacrum. The postulate number 2, blue lines postulate, pendulum, so-called conditionally. At the axis of the pendulum has a 90 degrees angle, and it provides the preconditions of the balanced movement, which based on the equality of the front strides and rear strides. These blue lines create the boundaries of the limb span, of the limb swing. And you can see that the front stride and rear stride are equal. But there is one more important thing. I will tell you about it in advance. I will come back to this idea later on when we will explain details of sound movement. But look at this. A red vertical line is very important because here is located the center of gravity. And the limbs from the opposite side are converging to the base of this vertical line. That's why you can see equal strides, equal steps when dog is on the trot. So we have to come back, please. So the principle of two horizontal lines. You can see that the shoulder joint or humeral scapula and hip are placed on the same level or located at the horizontal line. The same situation is concerning another pair of joints, elbow joint and knee joint, which also lie on horizontal line, another one. What is the sense? What is the reason of that? Why is it important, and what does it give to the dog construction, dog conformation, and its movement? When the dog is trotting and hind legs are unbending, the hip joint is going up and the stifle joint is going down. They are deviated from these positions on the equal distances. So the mutual oscillation compensate each other, and that's why the spinal column remains horizontal. Because all disturbances arousing during the jumping and falling do not reach spinal column. They are softened because of this mutual oscillation. The horizontal position of the spinal column is very important because of two reasons. First of all, the motive thrust from the rear by the system of lever arms is transmitted to the sacrum, to the iliac tuber, to be transmitted later on to the front. And this transmission is along the top line, along the spinal column. And this is really important because in this case, dog should not work to lift the center of gravity. And that's why is not getting tired. This is a positive aspect of this postulate, but if we, something else, you can understand that in this case, dog structure, dog conformation differs from the overbuild construction when a ramp is going up and becoming higher than the wheels. It doesn't happen because of the mechanism I told you right now about. One more thing which is out of influence of this postulate. You can understand that the upper arm and the upper thigh could be slanted differently. For example, upper arm could be here, and upper thigh could be here, could be here. That's why the angulations of humeral scapula and coxofemoral will be different. And we are looking for the optimal meaning of these angulations. And this optimal meaning will be provided by the next postulate named to principle of two verticals. In this case, when the elbow joint is located under the top of withers and the knee joint is located under the tail set, you can see that upper arm and upper thigh are slanted so much as it's possible because of the physiological limits. And in this case, this angle is approaching to the 90 degrees angle, like this one. And the 90 degrees angle is the best one for the most economical regimen. It is very well known, and if necessary, at the end of the lecture, should you have the questions and explanation of this principle, I will give it, but I believe that it is well known that the 90 degrees angle is the best for the function of this angle and of that one. So the conclusion of this postulate, one more time, please. Elbow and knee. This segment connects these two joints. And this is the top line, and inside you can see the spinal column. What is important? Elbow joint is located at the very beginning of the top line, and the knee joint is located at the very end of the top line. That's why they provide the mobile support for the spine from the beginning to the end. And it is the additional mechanism softening the transmissions to the top line when dog is on the move. Easy to explain. Try to imagine that the dog is deprived of any limbs angulations, and that the limbs are like legs of the chair. No angulations at all. And it is absolutely obviously that the distance between these legs and length of the body will be absolutely the same. But in reality, situation is different. And by the system of levers, arms in the rear and in front, the body of the dog is moved forward regarding front and rear limbs. And if you suppose that they are moved differently regarding front and the rear limbs, that will mean that the front stride is different than the hind stride. And this is not correct, because in this case, dog's movement will be not balanced. And the equality of the front and rear strides is necessary to provide this balanced movement. So, okay, now before I forget, we'll consider the movement of the dog, how it works when dog is trotting. This is a real dog on the move when dog is trotting. You can see how does it look like. Try to remember. Next picture, you can see what is inside. Yes. Next picture, please. You can see in details front and the rear bones and joints. And finally, we'll see the picture I have already demonstrated to you. This one. Thank you. So, dog on the move. We will use several criterions. So all criteria included one by one. The first one, as I told you, is equality of the front and rear strides. The second is that the limbs span matches the boundaries provided or created by the blue lines created by the pendulum. Next one is the principle of two horizontals, two green lines, when the one couple and another couple of joints are placed on two horizontal lines, and one more line. This is an orange line, which is vertical and connects the eye of the dog and paw of the front leg at the moment of landing or close to it. Why is it important? Because you remember that acoustical vestibular apparatus is located in the ear. And this criterion provides a little bit in advance the equilibrium of the dog when landing. This red line, vertical line, where center of gravity is located, provides another condition named stability of the movement. What do I mean? When try to imagine that you are in the bus and you don't want to be wobbling too much, and you are looking for the point with the minimum of wobbling. And you will find this point. This point will be center of gravity. The same is here. This is a principle of converging powers. And this is the simple explanation, simple illustration of this principle, which belongs to the theoretical mechanics. And this is outside of our conversation. So, and of course, in the very beginning, before you will check all this criterion, you will pay an attention to the top line, which should remain solid and level for the majority of the breeds. And I have to emphasize that the biomechanical model of the dogs is valid for the majority of the breeds. Moreover, for the overwhelming majority of the breeds. But there are some exceptions. Today, our breed does not belong to this exception. So, and the biomechanical model has the full influence in case of the Russian colored bichon. So, before to tell you about the harmonic model of the dogs, I will come back to the very beginning. And as I promised, I will tell about reference points important for the judges if they are looking for the objectivity of their assessments. So, by the hands, it is very easy to check borders between anatomical divisions of the spinal column. The very beginning is here. First, vertebra, spinous process, or the joint between neck and back. The end is the last rib, back edge, and you can see if this point is located in the middle of the top line or not. The same you can check when compare this distance from the last rib to the iliac tuber and from the iliac tuber to the tail set, if this point is in the middle. And if it is in the middle, 2, 1, 1 are provided, and this is the best composition of the top line, which explanation will be given later on the framework of the harmonious model. So the judge has the tool to check his emotional impression, his visual impression, to check by hands. Another thing I didn't mention before is this one. You can see here also 2, 1, 1. Also the explanation to be given later on, but now only please note, this is the middle of this distance. This is a very typical for the majority of the breed when elbow joint is located at the middle of this distance, and the humeroscapular joint is located in the middle of this distance from the elbow joint to the top of withers, because for the majority of the breed, length of shoulder blade and upper arm are the same. That's why the vertical projections are equal. And then that's why you can see, you can find 2, 1, 1 along the vertical line. So that is the next possibility to use the reference points. Next one. The judge can see if the elbow joint is located under the withers and say that in this case, this is the optimal meaning of the shoulder blade for this concrete dog, as well as the knee joint is located under the tail set. And the last one is the possibility to check if these joints, this couple of joints, lie on one horizontal line, and this couple of joints lie on another horizontal line. So the judge has the tools which can help me to verify his visual impressions and to be more objective. For the breeders, I will give the tool later on. So now it's a small secret. But before to go to this secret, we have to be introduced. Just a moment. To the harmony of the dogs. Really, the human are gifted from the nature to evaluate on the emotional level the beauty, and they can see if the object they are looking is beautiful or ugly, or its proportions are not perfect. And this possibility, this gift, this talent is because of the golden section, because eyes of human are in tune with the golden section. I will tell later on what does it mean, but this is the reason why we are able, without any knowledge, only on the emotional level, to appreciate what we see. My task in the past was to find out the harmonious proportions which are important for the human eye to understand if they fit the perfection or no. I was lucky to discover them using the principle of the golden section. So I told you many times already these two words, and now it's a time to explain what does it mean. So in front of you, you can see, no, it's a little bit too early. I need a previous picture, please. Golden section. As I told you already, the golden section is the universal form building principle of harmony, which means that everything around us, inside us, and in general is under the influence of this principle. I could give you a lot of examples, but now our time is limited and topic of my lecture is different one. That's why, should you are interested in the deep explanation of this principle and in the examples, please read my book, Dog Conformation and Its Evaluation. The book is available in UK in our dogs. Please get in touch with Vince Hogan. Golden section. The principle was very well known in the ancient times. Ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Renaissance time, and modern time. Always, it was very important principle for many kinds of people occupations, for the architects, sorry, for the sculptors, for the engineers, for the scientists, for the artists. A lot of directions, it could be used very efficiently and direct the way to the perfection. I will use probably the only one example, and this is the egg. The egg which Fabergé used as the symbol of the perfection. Excuse me. I have to notice that the egg construction is based on the golden section because across and along the egg is built according to the golden section. Moreover, this shape is not only beautiful when we look at this and enjoy its perfection. Sorry. But just a moment. It has very special function. This egg is practically impossible to destroy in your hands if you're squeezing evenly. So durable is this construction. And you can understand the aim of that, the purpose, because of the embryo, which should be protected the best. So the beauty and the optimal function of this beautiful construction are the conclusions of the golden section influence. Now I go to the definition of the golden section principle. Euclid gave the definition to this principle, named the division of the segment and the extreme and mean ratio is next one. The whole segment length, which is 1, to its biggest part, which is x, is the same as the biggest part, x, is to the smallest one, 1 minus x. And this proportion could be easily transformed in the square equation, which positive root you see in front of you. If I calculate this number, in the third approximation, I will find this 0.618. More rough approximation will be 0.62. And the most rough approximation will be 0.6 or 3 to 5. And for our purposes, we will use 3 to 5, the rough approximation of the golden section, because it is enough as our measuring mistakes exceeds so-called tail which we neglect. So 3 to 5. Now I go ahead, and this is the 16th century after Christ, the time of Luca Pacioli and Leonardo da Vinci. Both were mathematicians. Luca Pacioli was the scientific monk, and he wrote the book named La Proportia Divina. La Proportia Divina means divine proportion, a proportion given by God. Try to remember your gift. but without any knowledge, you are able to appreciate if the object you're observing is beautiful or not. This is the gift from above. This is a gift from God. Luca Pacioli mentioned 12 properties of this La Proporzione Divina, and his opinion was that the La Proporzione Divina is the law of universal harmony. Leonardo da Vinci illustrated this book, but he renamed this La Proporzione Divina and gave another name, Sectio Aureo, or golden section. And namely this golden section is well known now. But I advise you not to forget the initial name because of very sacral meaning, I would say. 4 centuries before, in 12th century, another mathematician, also Leonardo, but Leonardo Fibonacci, who lived in Pisa, was solving quite another problem, very far away from our topic. And the solution of his problem was the sequence you can see in front of you. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, and on. It is very easily built. 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and on. And you can see now another sequence, which is modification of the first one. And the way to modify was also very easy. I divide each previous member of Fibonacci sequence to the next one. 1 divide to 1, 1. 1 divide to 2, 1 second, 2 third, 3 fifth, 5 eighth, 8 13th, 13th, 21 first, and on. But what is important, that this sequence limits is the golden section. You can see the same number like here. That means that each member of this sequence is the more or less approximation of the golden section. More rough in the very beginning and more fine when we move forward. Three to 5. Now I come back to the initial sequence and would like to draw your attention to the very first 3 numbers I highlighted in red. 1, 1, 2. And if I read it in the reverse way, 2, 1, 1, you will immediately find out the proportions which we discovered in the top line of the dog. And this is the moment of truth, I would say. Because now it is easy to understand that in case when the top line is built according to this ratio, means that the dog conformation is tuned on the basic level to the golden section. Please think about it. Without these numbers, this sequence could not be built. And this sequence could not exist. And the golden section will be never approached. So the tuning to the 211 on the basic level is the extremely important for the harmony dog. In front of you, this is the picture with the proportions along the spine and along this vertical line. And that means that on the basic level, dog conformation is in tune to the golden section, either along or vertically. Okay, now I can go to the harmonic model of the dogs. I told you already that everything is under the influence of the golden section. And of course, the dog's conformation could not avoid this influence. And now you can see these proportions valid for majority of the breeds. And in case of the Russian colored bichon, it works. Step by step, I will show you. The first harmonious proportion is depth of the chest to the length of the top line is the golden section. Here you can see another picture and understand that the length of the chest to the length of the body is the golden section. It is easy to understand that we have the illustration of the very first segment. Look at this, O1X. The whole segment to its biggest part gives the same ratio as the biggest part to the smallest one. You can see illustration of this principle. Later on, I will give you some additional comments to these proportions. Length of the body to the distance between occiput and paw of the hind leg placed behind to the vertical rear pastern is golden section. I call this segment diameter of the dog. And probably I should not repeat that I measure length of the body from the point of sternum to the very end of buttock. And this blue segment, what we see in the plane, in the reality, connects the occiput and paw of this foot, and these points do not belong to the vertical plane parallel to the longitudinal axis of the body. So this is a projection of that segment to the vertical plane parallel to the longitudinal axis. Height at elbow, elbow joint, to the sum of head and neck length is the golden section. Girth of the muzzle to the girth of the skull is the golden section. Now I will give you some short comments. This proportion is extremely important, that dog could have solid body, because it is a very special proportion which provides the maximum durability of the construction. But there is another conclusion we can use. If somebody will be asked about the difference in the length of the body between males and females. Females usually are longer in body than the males. And when I ask students or trainee judges, for example, because of what? The answer is, oh, probably because of the longer loin by the females. But this is not true. Unfortunately, this is a very widespread delusion. Because when I explained to you details concerning top-line proportions, I have not mentioned any time that it is valid only for males. No, it doesn't depend on the gender. It doesn't depend on the sex. Doesn't matter who is it, male or female. Top-line proportions ideally are the same. But then there is a question why females are still more long-bodied than the males. And this we can find out using this principle. What is the reason no, I will ask you another one. The bitches are longer in the sciatic bones because of the whelping. The whelping process should be provided the best. That's why croup, or namely sciatic bones, are longer. And now you can see we are lengthened because of the sciatic bone. This part is becoming longer. And that's why the initial proportion, which should be 5:3, is violated. It is now more than 3 because of the more longer sciatic bones. And the only way to restore this right proportion, to restore the golden section ratio, is to change something in front of the females. And they really have more prominent forechests, which leads to lengthening of the chest in front. And then this ratio will be restored and will be based again on the golden section. Length of the body is constant. It is not changing. But we see the dog standing. The dog can move, and the gaits could be different. Walk, trot, gallop. And the head and neck will be moved forward, as well as for the counterbalance, the hind legs will be placed much more far away, much more backwards. That's why this blue segment will oscillate from standing to walking, from walking to trotting, from trotting to gallop. And this oscillation are based on the initial golden section proportion. This is a very interesting ratio. And the best illustration could be given when we look at the dog on the move. Okay. So look at this, please. This orange line. To approach the base of this orange line, head and neck and foreleg should be in the right proportion. They should correspond to each other. They should match each other. And this right proportion is the 3 to 5. And the last one, please. It's a time to remind you about the egg. You remember the egg is constructed according to the golden section because it is the cross diameter to the longitudinal diameter are 3 to 5. And the egg shape has the maximum durability. We can find out here the same. What is the function here of this shape determined by these 3 and 5 circles? In this case, maximum of bite power will be determined by this ratio, 3 to 5. And if we are looking for the extreme powerful bite, we can remember case of bull terrier and borzoi, and see that their heads are egg-shaped. So there are some short explanations of proportions we see. Now, I go to the very beginning of my speech. I have promised to give the selective algorithm for the acceleration of the breeding progress to the breeders. And now I am ready to do that. You can ask me, okay, you found out the harmonious proportions of the dog conformation, but how could we reach to them when breeding, when practically breeding? What way, what order? And the answer is very, very easy, very simple. Don't think about that. Your selection should be based on this principle: 2, 1, 1 along the top line, and 2, 1, 1 along this vertical line, with the exceptions of the achondroplasia dogs. And then harmonious proportions will appear automatically. The initial tuning to the golden section will bring you all harmonious proportions, which will approach themselves to the value of the golden section. So you have the tool as I promised you. So now I can go directly to the standard, and when I need, I will use principle and postulates you know now. Please tolerate my set out, because I have in front of me the Russian original text of the standard, and I will translate at sight right now. So it could be sometimes maybe not so not so perfect, but I will try to do all my best. This standard is approved by the RKF on 15th of May 2019. The origin is Russia, group number 9, companions, dog companion. History. The beginning of the breed creation was in the middle of 20th century, since 1951 in the USSR. The breed was created by the Soviet cynologists using the small dogs with the unknown origin. Because of very strict selection, according to the phenotype, it was formed the breed group of the specimen, similar in the phenotype and conformation. The main breed features were small size, long curly or wavy coat, and solid color. In 1966, in the USSR, the first standard of the breed was approved by the Ministry of Agriculture. In 1970 to 1980, breed became more and more popular, and different clubs and kennels were established. Resulting to the active breeding, in 1999, in the RKF was registered the National Breed Club. The new edition of the standard was approved on 24th of November 2010 by the RKF, initiated by the National Breed Club. And on 15th of May 2019, some changes and amendments were added and approved by the RKF. The general appearance: small, slightly long-bodied, harmoniously built dog with a long, curly, abundant coat of solid color. Soft, intelligent appearance and expression. Important proportions: length of body exceeds the height at withers no more than 15%. Muzzle length is a bit more than 1/3 of the head length. Height at the elbows is approximately equal to the half at the 8 at withers. Depth of the body is equal approximately to the half of height at withers. Behavior, temperament. Affectionate dog with a lively temperament and merry behavior. Head is well proportioned. Skull rounded, a little bit domed. Occiput is hardly visible. Superciliary ridges are moderately pronounced. Stop is short and well marked. Facial part nose. Nose is small, black, or according to the color. Nostrils well opened. Muzzle not long, a little bit more than 1/3 of the head length. Dry, slightly tapering towards the nose. Bridge of nose, sorry, is straight and wide at the base. Lips are dry, tight-fitting. Edges of the lips are black or according to the color of the coat. Jaws, teeth, just a moment. Upper and under jaw are wide enough, scissor bite, level bite and reverse scissor bite are acceptable. Teeth are white, strong. Incisors are placed perpendicular to the underjaw, to the jaws. All canines and incisors should be presented. Cheekbones slightly rounded. Eyes of medium size, rounded, straight set, dark. Could be lighter eyes by the dogs with a brown nose. Eyelids are thin, dry, tightly fitting, black or according to the color. Expression is soft and friendly. Ears are of medium length, triangle in shape, a little bit rounded tips, hanging on the cartilage, moderately high set. Covered with a long feathering. Neck of medium length, high set, dry, muscled. Body compact, moderately broad. Top line slightly sloping from the withers to the tail set, straight. Withers moderately marked. Back straight, strong, wide, muscled, long. Loin short, wide, slightly arched. Croup rounded, moderately long, wide, well muscled, slightly sloping. Chest moderately broad, oval shape in the cross section, long, reaching to the level of the elbows. Underline and belly. Belly is moderately tucked up. Before to go on, I would like to... Катюша, дайте мне, пожалуйста, картинку, самую первую, где биомеханик. Вся биомеханика. I would like to repeat some important things which are valid in case of this breed. So, yes, thank you very much. Back is long. Yes, 2 units according to the golden section. Short loin, 1 unit, and short sacrum, 1 unit. And the short sacrum does not contradict the requirement of the rather long croup, because the length of the croup is mostly based on the length of the sciatic bones. So they match each to other. Chest is long and deep, reaches to the elbow level. So everything is in accordance with the biomechanical model and with the harmonious model as well. Tail, medium long, high set, forwarded to back like a curl or lies on the back. Tip of the tail is pressed to the body. Tail is fully covered by the long coat. Limbs, general appearance. Viewed from front, straight and parallel, moderately wide set. Shoulder blades, oblique, muscled. Humeral scapular angulation is about 100 to 110. Upper arm, approximately of the same length as the shoulder blades. Elbows, directed exactly backwards. Forelegs, of medium length, parallel, straight. Raised, continue the vertical line of the foreleg. Pastels, strong, not long, almost vertical, almost upright. Forefeet, small, of rounded shape, well arched. Hind legs, general appearance. Viewed from behind, straight and parallel, moderately wide set. Upper thigh, of medium length, well muscled. Stifles, moderately pronounced, moderately defined angles of stifles. Moderately, I would say that the dog is moderately bent in the stifles. Second thigh, of medium length. Rear pastels, of medium length, set upright. Hind feet, a bit too smaller than the forefeet, oval shaped, arched. Movement, easy, free. Typical gait is fast trot. Let us look again at the dog on the move. Fast trot, extended trot. The criterion of the extension is this orange line. The balance criterion is the equality of the front and the rear strides. It is not mentioned in the standard, but it's quite obviously, and we should not especially notice that the top line is remaining firm without visible changes compared to the standing dog. So extended trot, well balanced and easy. Coat, long elastic without folds with a solid pigmentation. Coat, long, dense, of medium thick, evenly covering the whole dog in the big curl or big lock or wavy. Undercoat is moderately developed or missing. Coat should not be clipped or trimmed, except the feet, where it should be clipped around the pads. A long feathering coat on the forehead could be formed as the top knot if it is covering the ears. Color. Any color with the exception of white, spotted, or my goodness, or merle. It's acceptable small or hardly visible or white spots on the chin, throat, chest, and tips of the fingers. Size and weight. The desirable height at withers in the males and females is 226. Desirable weight is 3 to 4 kilos. Muzzle and skull are equal in the length. Half erect or erect ears. Missing of 2 or more incisors. Undershot with a gap. Straight coat. Kinked tail. Forelegs short or bowed. Two prominent goggled eyes, big white spots on the chest and or feet. Disqualification. Aggressive dogs or shy dogs, any dogs demonstration physical or behavioral abnormalities, missing of the feathering on the head, undershot, overshot, wry mouth, visible incisors or canines when the mouth is closed, blue eyes, different colored eyes, bobtail, any color outside this, not mentioned in the standard, height at withers more than 28 centimeters. Clearly visible features of dwarfism. And as usually, the nota bene to normally developed oh my goodness. Fully descended into scrotum. And clinically and functionally healthy dogs with a expressed, typical for the breed features that could be used when breeding. So, this is the standard. Nothing special in the conformation in this breed we found when reading the standard. It is a very typical description for the bichon, with all typical characteristics, with a compact body, with an excellent developed coat, curly or wavy, with a head which proportions are determined by the ratio mentioned in the standard, and lively and friendly expression, So this is the Russian colored bichon. So somehow I didn't say to you about the testicles at the very end, fully descended into scrotum. Okay, I repeat it now. Okay, now we can look at different pictures and analyze what we see. Катюш, пожалуйста, фотографии. This is the typical head shape and expression. Look at this, please, and keep in your mind this image. This is the long-bodied. No. It was okay. So please give me. Yes, thank you. Long-bodied, short-legged dog. I don't know, dog or bitch. I will say dog because it is impossible to say exactly. I will say exactly only when it is absolutely visible. Long-bodied dog, short-legged, with the correct size and shape of the head, short neck, straight top line, high set tail, without required abundant feathering. And the coat is just very, very slightly wavy, almost straight. This is another example. Long-bodied, short, also short-legged, even more short-legged than the previous one. Solid body, correct size of the head, shape we can only suppose. How is it? Long and high set neck, pronounced withers, short, strong top line, high set tail, which should be covered better with a feathering, and slightly wavy coat. One more time, we see long-bodied and short-legged dog. Head is long enough, long neck, correct top line and correct tail set. The feathering is rather poor, and the coat is almost straight. Here, it is moderately long-bodied dog, a little bit short-legged, a good size of the head, with the correct proportions between muzzle and skull, a bit too large and prominent eyes. Neck is a bit too short, straight top line, high set tail, covered with the enough developed hair, straight angulated in front and in the rear, slightly wavy coat. Difficult to say about the coat texture exactly because we cannot touch, but probably we can see also very developed undercoat. Slightly long-bodied, compact dog with the correct proportions between the height at the elbows, you can see, and depth of the chest. It is in the middle. A rather large head with a rather short muzzle, wide at the base, rather wide apart set eyes of the dark color, high set neck, short top line, high set tail, enough covered by the feathering, enough angulated in front, enough angulated in the rear. You can see that the knee joint is very open when this rear leg is placed behind. Coat is slightly wavy, almost straight. This is another example. Almost square-bodied dog, long enough in the legs, with a large head. Difficult to say exactly about the proportions between muzzle and skull. Sorry. With a very big ears. Length of the neck could not be described. Correct top line, high set tail, deep chest, straight in front, straight in the rear. Coat is slightly wavy, and the tail should be covered better. Also, long-bodied and short-legged dog. Size and shape of the head is correct. High-set long neck, straight top line, high-set tail, enough colored by the coat. Deep chest, enough angulated in front, should be better angulated behind, and coat should be developed much better, slightly wavy coat. This is a nice specimen of the breed, moderately long-bodied, with a solid body, with a almost correct length of the legs, slightly short-legged, slightly. Nice head and expression, high-set neck, excellent top line and tail set, which is correctly covered by the profused coat. Enough front angulation, moderately angulated behind, well-developed coat, slightly wavy. Long-bodied, short-legged dog. Solid body with a good volume. It is visible because of the distance between front legs. Large head with the correct proportion between muzzle and skull. A bit too large eyes, and there should be better pigmented eyelids. Long enough neck, correct top line and tail set. Deep chest, should be better angulated in front, correctly angulated behind. Profuse coat, but groomed, brushed, not the best looks, a bit too shaggy. Dog on the move. Long-bodied, deep-chested dog with the correct length of the legs. It is visible. Solid body with an excellent top line, correct tail set. Deep chest, correct angulations in front and in the rear. And the criteria are equal front and rear strides, which are provided by the correct front and rear angulations, and well-extended trot because of the criterion based on the vertical line lowered from the eye and connecting the paw of the landing foreleg. This is a nice picture. You can see shape of the head, expression, and coat development. Altogether creates typical image of the Russian colored bichon. Quite similar to the previous one, so I will not describe it and only accentuate that the eyes are according to the color as well as the nose leather. They're black and good pigmented. Enough pigmented eye rims. Well-developed coat. One more time, the head, shape and expression. Very nice picture, very good example and specimen of the breed. In this case, you can see the head where the eyes are too large and too wide apart, as well as the eye rims are not enough pigmented. Here is the almost profile of the head, which is accentuated by the top knot. Difficult to say about the proportion between the muzzle and skull. It seems a bit too short, but it is only supposition because we cannot see exactly in profile. Another picture, you can see wet dog on the move. Long-bodied, with a solid body, deep-chested, with the correct length of the legs. You can compare this leg and the depth of the chest. They are practically equal. Rather big head. Maybe the muzzle is a bit too long. And maybe it is difficult to say for sure. Maybe the stop should be marked better. Good length of the neck, which allows to move forward head so much that the vertical line from the eye could reach to the paw of the front leg at the moment of landing. You can see that front and rest rights are equal. So that's it. No, and the last one, you can say that the coat is curly, but dog is wet. That's why there are. It's okay. Now we will see another examples when the coat is dry. This one and that one. Nice picture, nice dog, long body, rather a little bit short leg, a little bit. You can compare length of the foreleg and depth of the chest. Solid body, nice top line, large head with a rather short muzzle, rather long, well-set neck. Tail is set high, but should be better inclined towards the head and should be better pressed to the body. Extended trot. These legs are converging to the base of the vertical line and almost reached to it. But as I told you, the forelegs are a bit too short. That's why they cannot approach to each other and touch the base of the vertical line lowered from the angle, from the axis of the pendulum. Coat is enough developed, a bit curly. This is another example, more long-bodied dog with a solid body and also with the legs which should be longer. And you can see immediately that the legs from the opposite side also cannot touch each other under the center of gravity. They are only converging to the base of this vertical line. And you can see that the vertical line from the eye is in front of the foreleg because of the short limbs. Coat is profuse and curly, rather high set tail, and should be better covered by the furnishing. We saw all together the pictures of the real dogs, and I believe you keep in mind the ideal image. And now you can see what is inside. This is the ideal conformation of the Russian colored bichon. And it should be. The breed specimen are not so similar to each other. There are a lot differently built dogs. And the mostly spread faults are short legs and not enough angulated dogs, both either in front or in the rear. Body usually is solid and with the correct top line. Sometimes we found that the tail set a little bit too low, but mostly, it is a high set. And chest was deep, and head was of a good shape, and these proportions were presented. So the main things which you will meet in the real population will be too long-bodied dogs and not enough angulated. Also, faults are concerning the coat, which quite often could be straight or not enough developed, or particularly not enough developed in the head or on the tail. So please keep in mind the ideal image, and you will be easily see what is hidden inside of the real specimen. You will find out in the real life. So, in general, my lecture is over, and I will be very glad to answer your questions, should you have it. So, I'm here for you, and I'm listening to you. Катюш, у нас есть вопросы?
Нет, я не вижу.
Ага.
Ага.
Ну что ж. Ну хорошо. So, I'm really happy that everything was clear, that my set out in details was exhaustive to exclude any misunderstandings. And thank you very much for your attention, for your patience, and see you next time. And the last two breeds, which will be considered next week and week after, will be the Russian hounds, Russian hound and the Russian pied hound. And this will be the end of the story.
The story was the end
of our cycle. Yes, of our cycle devoted to our native breeds. So I'm very glad, and see you next time.
See you next time, next Tuesday.
Yes, all the best.
Bye-bye.